DSA co-chair was asked about me, okay? It's so funny that they were like demanding that the Democratic Socialists of America disavow me as well, which I find very funny. What about this comment? What about that comment? Do you disavow this comment? Do you disavow that comment? DSA co-chair, why don't you disavow Hasan Piker? Here's the thing, okay? We have to remain strong. We have to remain consistent. We have to be disciplined, okay? That's part of the reason why, even if I hear something on the DSA platform that I don't, fully agree with or think is like optically not the best or whatever the fuck, I will still stand by my allies. Okay? You are not disciplined? Yes, I shaved. I am not disciplined. Exactly. The reason why I stand by my comrades, my allies in the Democratic Socialists of America is because they are far closer to me, if not damn near identical, with my worldview than even the right-wing centrist Democrats are, and certainly the reactionary right. We have to have a principled stance. We can have our minor disagreements. But ultimately, if we start disavowing one another, then there is no movement. Okay? I think that kind of stuff is silly. It's one of the most toxic aspects of the left. Okay? One of the most toxic aspects of the left is constantly seeking some semblance of purity by those who never even demonstrate that purity or demonstrate the same moral standards that they're applying to you. Okay? You think I'm going to sit there and listen to a goddamn fascist demand that I disavow people who are closest to me politically? Are you out of your mind? Are you insane? Are you out of your mind? That's ridiculous. That's why we should stop calling people ultra. It's exactly like the calling the left hankies. Yes, the problem is there are wreckers, okay? There are wreckers. If they just shut the up about how reformist the Democratic Socialists of America are, then I would never, there is, for years and years, okay, people have called me a tanky. I don't care. I don't care about that. People have called me an ultra. People have called me a tanky. They still are doing it. They're doing it every day. They're trying to turn me into a boogeyman. The problem is the people who consider themselves to be further to my left don't recognize what's going on, and they just constantly are trying to destroy what exists of like left mobilization in this country. Okay, that's the problem. So I'm consistent on this. There are those law wrecking the DNC. Yes, dude, the DNC. That's what we're doing here. This is what I mean. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, come on, man. The DSA left is not trying to destroy the left. What? No, I'm not criticizing the DSA left at all. What I'm talking about are people who, instead of like the other guy, that wasn't the DSA left that I just banned, okay? What I just banned in that situation is someone behaving like a wrecker. When DSA itself has the entire federal apparatus constantly surveilling everything that they do, when I have the State Department actively calling me out, and there are people who still come in here and they go, no, you're actually not a true revolutionary. Fuck you. You're actually fake and phony. Focus your sights. Train your sights on the fascists. What the are you doing? Immediately choosing to attack your closest fucking friends, your closest ideological allies in this moment where the fascist government is actively trying to basically throw every single political dissident into concentration camps is unbelievably annoying. It's friendly fire. Of course I'm going to yell about that. I just gave you an example of people to my right within the DSA right that I do not oppose or criticize publicly, even if I have my disagreements with them. And the same goes for people on my left as well, people to my left flank, the Maoist third worldists and whatnot. The only time I ever apply criticism is when they, whether they be to my right or to my left, are coming after a broad anti-fascist coalition. That is what they are wrecking. Do you understand? It is those who are deeply unserious and do not recognize the necessity for as broad of a movement as possible that will oppose fascism in this country that is growing that I criticize no matter who they are. I mean, look, I just criticized a liberal Democrat who's actively coming after the entirety of the left flank. They don't make any distinction between you or I. Neither does the Republican Party. And the Republican Party doesn't even make a distinction between liberals and people on our side. Okay? It's that simple.
Democratic socialism and radicalism is simply a vessel to overthrow the U.S. of our country from within. The plan, as stated in the DSA's chapter, win elections, throw out the Constitution, abolish the Senate, abolish the Electoral College. Of course, you want to stack the courts, strip away all powers from the White House and Supreme Court, and then, boom, democratic socialism / communism, just, regular old, that'll be the end of America as we know it.
Where is this? There was someone talking about the point of wrecker. You're wrecking the DNC. You're wrecking the organization within the DNC. If you don't understand what we're trying to do here, and if you can't even comprehend why the Republicans are losing their goddamn minds over this, and why the center of power in the right wing of the Democratic Party is losing their goddamn minds, and they're cooperating with the fascist right in this country, that's not our fault. Okay. If this movement was unimpactful, if this movement was simply posturing from the outside, okay, and offering constant critique instead of trying to do something to make this change, then yes, this wouldn't be happening right now, okay? I've been saying the same things for a decade now. Why am I getting constant round-the-clock coverage from Fox News? Okay, there have been moments that I've been featured on Fox News, but never to this degree. Why? Why is it that only now are many of the organs of propaganda on the mainstream right and the mainstream center right, from CNN, CBS, and Fox News, why are they coming after me as aggressively as they can? Because they're not coming after me, they're coming after all of us. Okay? I'm just a figurehead. Even if I don't choose that moniker myself, even if I disavow that, it doesn't matter. That's the way they're presenting it. They're not talking about me when they say this stuff. They're talking about anyone that wants to progress in this country, anyone that wants to pull back the Overton window closer to the left, anyone that wants to fight for healthcare, anyone that is even capable or invested in criticizing Donald Trump. Okay? That is what they choose, what they want to destroy. That's their goal. And if you can't comprehend it, I don't know what to tell you. That is their goal, though. Their goal isn't to just section off different aspects of the left and offer a critical lens. Their goal is not to make the Democratic Party more competitive. You can't be stupid enough to believe that, right? Do you genuinely believe that? Do you think that these guys are actually invested in making the Democratic Party a strong Democratic Party by cutting off their left their left movement, their left flank? The Republicans, you think the same Republicans that have been calling Nancy Pelosi a communist for the last 2 decades, all of a sudden now are making that distinction between Nancy Pelosi and people like myself? Where is that coming from, you think? You think Fox News cares about having a strong Democratic Party? Or do you think they're actively trying to foment discontent within the left by targeting the base, by picking DSA, its platform? It's too radical. Someone like myself saying that I'm too radical, I'm too crazy.
Now, you can vote your way into socialism, but you can't vote your way out of it. Sounds extreme? Yeah, because it is. And don't forget, Democratic Socialists, they don't love this country. One of their core leaders, Hasan Piker, said America deserved 9/11, this in the 25th anniversary year of 9/11/01. And now, in his podcast, he proudly displays a framed newspaper. Take a look at this from 9/12/01, showing the Twin Towers on fire. Take a look.
Also, you might have noticed some changes behind me. I finally framed the Cutie Cinderella newspaper from 9/11, the morning of 9/12, the newspaper right there, the newspaper that covered 9/11. It's now officially sitting behind me, and I moved the North Korean poster
Recently, the college Democrats invited Piker to speak at their annual convention. He showed up dressed like a Chinese dictator and delivered a hate-filled rant against all of his political enemies, including Israel, Donald Trump, and other Democrats. The speech was kind of insane, so insane that the University of Kansas Democrats, they actually got up and walked out, later condemning.
This didn't happen. But I like that they're making shit up. They are merging different groups that are not a part of this organization. They're saying like, oh, Kansas Democrats actually got mad. Oh, Young Democrats got mad. These are not the same organizations. But of course, Fox News lies about everything. They lie when ICE guns down another American citizen or someone with a legal permanent residency in the country. Why would you think that they're being honest in this moment, right? They lie about everything. So the question I have for like the dummies that still refuse to comprehend what's going on, they lie about everything. Why would they be truthful about this? They hate you, even if you are a liberal. Even if you're a liberal Democrat and you're like, oh, I just want like moderate changes to take place at a reasonable pace. They make no distinction between you. Okay? They make no distinction between you and I. There will come a moment where you will have to pick a side. That incrementalism is not going to save you. It's not. It's not going to save you at all.
Piker's extremism in a statement. Of course, Piker, well, wasn't just dressed like Chairman Mao for fun. He actually reveres one of, well, history's most evil and murderous dictators ever to exist on this planet. Take a look.
They clipped me talking about Mao Zedong up by a cop who thought I was like making fun of Mao Zedong, which I never would and never will. Mao Zedong is a one of the great leaders of this world, okay? A man who changed the entire universe, the entire planet. He did. He changed the trajectory of history. He is the founding father of the People's Republic of China. Mao Zedong gets the same level of credit that the founding fathers do for America.
Now, tens of millions of Chinese citizens.
It's true. Facts. Here, post this clip too, Sean. Why won't Sean Hannity have me on to discuss this stuff? He said he was supposed to, and instead he chose not to have me on and talk about me instead. It's very interesting. What are you afraid of, Sean? We can discourse back and forth on this issue, whatever issue you want to talk about. Dude, this is actually concerning. It's not fucking the Fox News is reporting on everything you say or do and portraying you some scary villain. I swear to God, they want someone to harm you. They know what they're doing. Yes, they do. Anyway, let's get back to the Sean Hannity conversation now.
Actually died under Mao, many due to starvation. Many more died in political prison camps or at the barrel of a gun lined up against the wall. Now, this is what Democratic radical socialists want to bring to America. Now, Jon Stewart, he's all smiles, kicks and giggles, laughing it up with New York City's communist mayor. Take a look.
You know, being a Muslim Democratic Socialist, I thought it would be pretty straightforward.
You just thought like, well, what if I label myself something that scares people the most? I'm a Muslim Democratic Socialist.
If you scare them, you scare them twice.
And I'd like to run your public transportation system.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What happened to the free buses anyway? And now, according to Jon Stewart, there's no need to panic over the rise of socialism. It's just a populist economic movement. Apparently, Jon Stewart is thinking that the left doesn't actually support the radical policies stated in the DSA's own charter. Take a look.
We're in that same place now where all these new ideas, suddenly the Democrats are, these democratic socialists, they're crazy. And you're like, well, but that generally their crazy ideas aren't where the energy is. The energy isn't around like, we shouldn't have prisons or borders. The energy is around a belief that their economic populism. And when you call it socialism, I think it's a misnomer. Like in the same way that if you call Social Security socialism, that's kind of a misnomer. It's about strengthening a safety net for a country that has suffered too long overvaluing capital and money and undervaluing labor and work.
Now, the energy is about open borders, defund, dismantle, no bail laws, reimagine the police.
He's such a lib. I mean, yes, they are. Americans are self-identifying liberals, okay? For the most part. This is something that we have to understand, okay? What do I always say? In order to build a mass movement, which is what socialism is, you have to speak to the masses. You have to speak to the struggles of the masses. You have to speak the language of the masses, and you have to go to where the masses are, okay? That's it. And after almost a century of liberal monoculture, liberal capitalist dominance, of course, a lot of people are self-identifying liberals. And yes, someone like Jon Stewart is very much a social democrat, a liberal who still finds the moniker, the identifier of socialism to be far too radical or dangerous or whatever. So these are baby steps that they need to take, reformist baby steps that I think a lot of orthodox Marxists consider to be dangerous, because this is from their perspective, this is like the Bernstein revisionism that initially destroyed the international left, the socialist or the communist movements all around Western Europe. What they fail to recognize is that the situation has changed. Okay, industry has advanced. The same productive forces, the productive forces in the West do not look the same any longer. Okay, so our tactics have to change as well, especially in a country like the United States of America, where we have to penetrate collective consciousness and we have to rip apart the previous setbacks born out of a century of Red Scare propaganda, born out of a necessity for capital to dominate the masses, to make the masses forget that they are a part of the working class. This is the first step. It's not the last step. If it stops here, then that's a problem. Okay? We do not want simple, modest reforms. Okay? We want to change the entire system. But you have to understand, it's not bad enough for people to come to terms with their class position. Contradictions worsen. Okay? Contradictions are as bad as they have ever been in the last 50 to 60 years. It's nowhere, but it's not as bad as it was in the 20s, right? Technological advancements, the sedentary element of social media and all of the treats that we can consume that are at our disposal. These are things that make people feel as though their lives have materially improved. And in some respects, they have. If you were to look back at the 60s, for example, the luxury items that we have, the average worker, and the luxury items that they are capable of receiving, that they're capable of holding on to, are the exact opposite. Okay? Now we look at housing as a luxury, but at the same time, we can fly around the world, right? You can get a little bit of disposable income if you're lucky enough, if you've saved enough to go and fly anywhere around the world. You can have a massive TV. You can have a refrigerator in your house that's much nicer than the refrigerators that used to exist. If you look at the actual cost of a television in like the 70s and 80s, it was far higher than the average cost of a TV now. But at the same time, if you look at the price of housing, whether it be rent or whether it be housing that you can purchase, it was endlessly affordable in comparison to now. Take it one step further. Go all the way back to, I don't know, the time when kings existed. Like the average worker is now capable of experiencing things that were only readily available to lords, kings, demigods. Okay? That is important to identify. It's all topsy-turvy. It's flipped on its head. We can no longer afford housing, but we can afford all of these treats that genuinely improve our lives for sure. The price of commodities have gone down, specifically, things that would have been considered luxury items, luxury goods have become endlessly affordable. But things that are necessary for survival, things that are necessary for upward social mobility, healthcare, housing, and, a college education, those are the three things that have become endlessly unaffordable in the process. And depending on your perspective, those things are either inelastic goods or inelastic, like services that have inelastic demand, or are necessary for upward social mobility. But as long as the price of groceries remains relatively cheap, which, by the way, it's not, it's getting less and less affordable as time goes on. Okay, but as long as those commodities are relatively accessible, relatively affordable, the material conditions will not deteriorate to such a degree that people are living through the roaring 20s again.
Of energy on all of those topics. They do support these extreme goals. They do hate America as we know it. They do want to upend our Constitution. They do want to replace capitalism with socialism, communism. And so far, 35 DSA-backed candidates now have won primaries all across the country ahead of a very important midterm come November. And none of these candidates have made a move to the center for the primary. In fact, they're very honest about wanting to upend the American system. When someone tells you who they are and what they plan to do, my advice is you may want to believe them, or maybe you could just listen to President Trump. Take a listen.
Communism is a loser. The concept, the policy, it's a loser, and it always has been, and it always will be. And, they want to give everyone everything away. You want free rent, you want free house, what they don't say is that a year from now, there'll be absolute squalor, turmoil, and death. And that's the way it's happened all the way. It goes back thousands of years by different names. But that's the way it happens all the time. It's squalor, it's poverty, it's death, it's destruction. And that's why we declare again today that the United States of America will never be a communist country. America is back. It's stronger than ever before. And I'm telling you, it's only going one way. It's going up. As long as we keep our current thinking, our current system, it's going up. If you go the other way, nothing ever succeeds. I made the statement once, with communism, everything turns to okay? It's true.
It's true. All right, so where are all those courageous Democrats who care about the Constitution, the rule of law, the American way of life? They seem to be few and far between. All right, thanks for watching. Check out my new podcast, Hanging Out with me, Sean.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but we have seen the way that the Republicans operate. We have seen the way that the Republicans operate for the last decade, especially post-Donald Trump. Republicans have always behaved this way. Donald Trump is just a logical conclusion of reactionary propaganda, reactionary politics in general. But the idea that Democrats need to join hands with the Republicans to fight against their common enemy, communism, is insane. Okay? Any Democrat that leans into this shit has to be a cynical actor. They have to be. Because it's very clear that these people have no respect for the Constitution. They have no respect for improving people's lives. They have no interest in improving people's lives. They are genuinely using the last vestiges of this once powerful country to steal as much of the productive resources, the productive output, and your money as they possibly can to enrich themselves, the Epstein class, and their close associates and their fail sons. Okay? It's clear. It's clear that there is a plunder taking place right now. And it's clear for most people in the working class. It's even clear for the likes of, it's even clear for some in the Republican side. They still associate themselves with Trump and Trumpism because, they have, they've deployed too much. They've invested too much into this movement. So it's tough for them to see that this movement has failed them. But if there are liberals out there who think that this is going to be a beneficial allegiance and not one that ends up harming them in the long run, they're delusional. Okay? Stop collaborating with fascists. They do not have your best interest at heart. They were calling you a communist vampire last week. What makes you think things have changed now? It's unbelievable to me.
To President Biden. Michael, Lay it out there for us.
Like, this guy is a classic example of this, right? Establishment Democrats that are running to cooperate with fascists in order to attack their left flank.
Is blue MAGA?
Well, I have no idea. I mean, the article said it in the New York Times said it was sort of anything for what anybody wants it to be. This is the first I've heard of it, actually, and since I read the New York Times piece.
It's
so,
catchy.
What's that?
It's catchy.
It's catchy, clever play on words. I give him credit. But look, if being blue MAGA means you want to avoid losers as candidates, like Graham Plattner or anybody who had a Nazi tattoo, or nominating Democrats with toxic positions like abolish ICE or defund the police, or banning private health care insurance, then sure, fine, call me blue MAGA, I guess. Those are not winners. Those are not winning issues or winning positions.
All right, here's what Hasan Piker told the New York Times. He said, blue MAGA is about cult-like loyalty to the Democratic Party, but unlike MAGA, it isn't centered around one person. It's centered around the image of a party that consultants and lobbyists have carefully curated. This
Cooked. Excellent. Excellent take from that guy. I don't know who that guy is. He has a beard. Different guy than me, but kind of agree. I hear that and I think to myself, wow, that guy is going places. That guy is correct.
Becoming the new ding on the party establishment, folks like Nancy Pelosi who have spent their careers raising, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars for candidates.
Why is Fox News defending Nancy Pelosi's honor? Why is Fox News defending Nancy Pelosi's honor? When have they done that? Why are they doing that?
Yeah, and look, I understand a frustration with sort of the groupthink mentality sort of at the top. And I spoke out in the last cycle when I was, kind of sending some warning signals about President Biden's challenges and his vulnerabilities, and just even acknowledging that problems existed within the polling. And I lost friends. I was blacklisted from other networks. I was called a traitor or a bedwetter. I was called a lot worse than a...
Yeah, that's why now I can only go on Fox News to complain.
Blue MAGA. But I'm also not going to take advice from somebody who has no idea what he's talking about. I mean, this guy makes a living being a provocateur, saying provocative, offensive things. I'm glad he has a political science degree from Rutgers, but he knows nothing about government, politics, public policy, or anything.
Well, we appreciate you here, having you, enjoy talking to you on the program. I want to ask you about this while we have you. New York Magazine reports, like it or not, Kamala Harris.
Is he saying that you were in support of Biden? I mean, I was in support of Biden, reluctantly. I in 2019, if you go back far enough, you'll see, in 2019, while the primaries were just beginning, I said, if we elect Joe Biden is going to set back any kind of progressive movement in this country. He's too old, and everyone can see that he's too old, and he is going to be a one-term president. It is a major mistake. But once past the point of Super Tuesday, when it was very clear that Joe Biden was going to be the candidate, unfortunately, when the establishment Democrats consolidated their support behind him, shouts out to Barack Obama for that. It was obvious that he was going to be the winner. Unfortunately, I reluctantly lent my support to Joe Biden. I did. I told my audience to plug their nose and vote for him. Okay. Joe Biden won, and change didn't come. And people were even more frustrated. They saw negative real wage growth for a year and a half under the Biden administration. That was hugely frustrating. And the Biden administration was absolutely, utterly incapable of defending against the barrage of reactionary attacks, saying that Joe Biden was opening up the floodgates of migration from the third world, all this stuff. One of the few good things that Biden did was pull out of Afghanistan. Everyone endlessly critiqued him for it. His reputation never recovered. There was a uniparty approach, different time. And then, you know, Biden's crowning achievement for his devastating terms, the complete advancement of Israel's genocidal project and genocidal ambitions over Gaza. And he will forever be remembered as the guy, as Genocide Joe. Yeah, this is back in 2020. I said, one truly wild thing that we haven't really talked about is Biden's stated interest in being a single-term president. Like, we're just going to throw away our incumbent advantage because Joe's going to be a vegetable by the end of his presidency. Truly incredible stuff. And at the time, the same centrist forces were yelling at me and saying, you're wrong. You're wrong. Because that was a false rumor. Turns out, it actually caused the Democrats to lose a tremendous amount of credibility amongst the base because they could see personally that Joe Biden's mental faculties had deteriorated. Okay. And they lost a lot of trust.
Harris is the front runner for the next presidential election cycle. Quote, she's been listening to the American people and really trying to figure out what's impacting them and how she can be of service to them. Right now, we need leaders that can take us in a different direction and bring us back together as a party. This from a longtime Democratic strategist who ran the DNC that nominated Harris in 2024.
Well, she's been a public servant for 37 years. I don't know why she's still listening. She needs to stop listening and start leading. People want to hear what she has to say. And the problem is that people want that new car smell, as Barack Obama once said. They're not going to give Kamala Harris a third at bat. There is no appetite for another Kamala Harris candidacy. And I hope that her consultants are only as good and they're only as useful to you if they tell you the truth.
Oh my God. I don't want to even hear this.